Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 12 of Kaldheim Spoilers. There's a few more cards today than there was yesterday, but before we get into reviewing them, I just wanted to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on my YouTube video. In addition to that, please follow me at twitch.tv/Jarvis_Moonbeam. You can also follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Jarvis_Moonbeam. If you want to join my Discord community, follow the link in the description of the video below. Now let's get to those cards. The first card is Dream Devourer. For 1 and a black, it's a Demon Cleric, that's a 0/3. Each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell. Its Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. Whenever you Foretell a card, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I have a couple of feelings about this. First of all, from what they unveiled with Foretell so far, it seemed like it was going to be more in an Azorius playset than in a black playset. However, with the blue really being the main bulk of Foretell, you might even be able to go and build a Dimir Foretell deck with the horse that makes a secret Foretell on your opponent's turn and also discounts the cost of Foretell by 1. So you might be able to make a neat Dimir Foretell deck there. In general, I don't really think this card is going to be worth playing in any format. You don't even really want this card in draft, I don't think, just because it's a 0/3 unless you Foretell, and then it becomes a 2/3, or if you have the extra mana, it could go and become even more. I'm just not a huge fan of it. Now this card, on the other hand, Fergie, God of Storytelling, is 2 and a red for a legendary god. That's a 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, add 1 red mana until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you can control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. So before we even get to the back side, the front side of this card is a bomb. It really builds off well to Storm decks. It could be a fun commander to build around. More so, it's probably going to end up in the 99 of a lot of decks. And this might even be a card that says see CDH play. Just because of giving that automatic refund of mana. Especially in a deck where most CDH decks run a curve that's 2 or below. Now, say you want to go and build a mid-range or big mana red deck. Pair this with Leyline Tyrant. That red mana that you're getting back for casting spells, you get to keep throughout turns, which makes it even better. The second half of this, creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. I don't think is very playable. Mostly because so far, there have only been 16 boast cards unveiled, and most of them aren't very good. They're in the form of +1/+1 counters and stuff like that. There are a couple that might see play, like Vagaroth, where it lets you tutor to the top of your library. The other card that goes well with Vagaroth is actually in red. The card is, let me just getting it pulled up right now, is Tuscary Firewalker. And the reason why those two work well together is Vagaroth. You boast it for 1 and a black, tutor a card to the top of your library. To scare your Firewalker for a single generic mana, you may exile the top card of your library, and you may play that until end of turn. So, say you just need a ramp. It's 3 mana for a land. Great. Say it's late game, and you just need to go and get that Hail Mary to take over the game. It's 3 mana and the game-winning card. That would make it more an Rakdos shell, or maybe even a Grixis control shell. I still don't really see it working in a boast deck, for lack of a better term. But that is some synergy that I noticed that could work well together. Now, on the back of this is Harnfell Horn of Bounty for 4 and a red. It's a legendary artifact that you discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. This is really where red has gotten its card advantage in these types of looting effects, where you discard and then draw. It's 5 mana for a repeatable effect if someone doesn't remove your artifact. In general, I don't think it's really worthwhile to play this as the back of your card, unless it is getting to late game, and you have nothing else in hand, and you just need to go and cycle through and get more cards that hopefully let you uh, lead to winning the game. Say you have three lands and Burgate in hand. You cast Harmfell. You discard one of those lands. You exile the top 2 cards. That could lead to you getting 2 playable spells. The 3 seasons for a green and a blue. Step 1, mill 3 cards. Step 2, return up to 2 target snow permanents from your graveyard to your hand. Step 3, choose 3 cards in each graveyard. Their owners shuffle those cards into their libraries. Step 1, you mill 3 cards. That fills your graveyard. The Step 2 of returning 2 target snow permanents from your graveyard to your hand. Other than getting lands back to your hand, if you mill those and you're missing a land drop, I really don't think this is going to end up being worthwhile, except in a possibly a Sultai or Snowtai led Jorn deck, or one that includes Jorn. But where I really like it is in Historic for that 3rd effect. It not only fills your graveyard if you're playing Simic or Sultai to go and lead to you being able to escape Uro quicker, it gives you the ability to go and remove Uro from your opponent's graveyard with that 3rd step. Granted, it might not make it to that 3rd step, but just the ability that it could go and remove that Uro is worthwhile, especially at the low cost of 2 mana. I think that this is going to see play. Maybe not mainboard play, but I think it could see sideboard play. Mostly in Historic, probably not standard. Righteous Valkyrie for 2 and a white. Angel Cleric, it's a 2/4 with flying. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. As long as you have at least 7 life or more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. This was a card that was spoiled in unofficial leaks quite a while ago, but it was officially given to Croakies as his spoiler card. This is going to be a card that sees play mostly in Cleric decks. I don't really see it being in Angel Travel decks. Mostly in Standard, probably not Historic. You can either go Mono White Clerics, or you go Orzhov Clerics. The 7 life, more than your starting life total, probably makes it that, except in a Kaalia deck, you're probably not going to see this in Commander. Either a Kaalia deck, a Cleric deck, or an Angel deck in general. Just because 7 life more than your starting life total means that you have to get to 47, and unless your deck is a dedicated life gain deck, which most Cleric decks are, it's really not worth playing. Immersturm Raider. It's a 1 and a red for a Demon Berserker for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. This is probably only going to be a limited card. It's probably not going to see play in Standard at all. Especially, you have Merchant of the Veil to go and loot, and it's a repeatable loot with Merchant of the Veil. So, this is just going to give you your card advantage in limited. Doomscar, 3 and 2 white, destroy all creatures. Foretell, 1 and 2 white. This is going to be the Wrath of Choice in Standard. It is the ability to take a turn off, especially if you don't have anything to play, to go and foretell this for the 2. And then, for 3 mana on a later turn when your opponent gets out of control, you are able to go and cast this card. And unlike Shatter the Sky, which has a, if you control a creature 4 or greater, there's no, you draw a card. There's no drawback to this. You don't have to worry about your opponent drawing a card off of it. This is going to be the Wrath of Choice in white. In a deck that is playing black, I don't know if I would play this, because I still do prefer Extinction Event and Shadow's Verdict. Because most of the time when you are wrathing, it is because of those go wide strategy of rogues in Standard, or like goblins or elves in Historic. But this will see a lot of sideboard play. And in decks that aren't playing black and are playing white, this is going to see a lot of main board play. and it's probably one of the best cards when it comes to influencing a format or influencing the standard format that has come out this set. Grizzled Outrider is 4 and a green for a Elf Warrior 5/5. It's a new card for the set, but it is a generic common with no text at all except for flavor text. You're not going to play it. You're only going to play this if you need a big beater in your limited pool. Struggle for Skemfar for 3 and a green. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and that creature fights up to one target creature you don't control. It is at sorcery speed, so you are not going to end up playing this in limited except for maybe in the Selesnya Counters deck. But I'm not in limited, I mean in standard except in the Selesnya Counters deck, but this will be played as removable in limited. Ice Cage Pillar for 2 and a blue for a snow artifact. For a snow mana, tap target artifact or creature. I don't see this seeing play. It's a really strong limited card to go and prevent you from being attacked, but I don't see it seeing play in standard. It's just not worth the 3 mana to play it and then the 1 mana every turn to tap. I just don't think it's worth it. Way down, a single black. As an additional cost to cast a spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. This is a bomb card for limited for removal. This is a -3/-3. Now, something to bring up in this set, there are about probably I think like 12 cards, between 10 and 12 cards with at least 6 toughness. That's not going to bring it up to 4 or the 5 toughness creatures, so these are some beefier boys than we've been used to in Zendikar or even M21. But still, -3/-3 is a really good removal spell in a limited format. In a standard format or historic format, with the decks being run by creatures like Lovestruck Beast, Questing Beast, Uros, it's not really going to see a lot of play there. Because most of the time, if you're seeing creatures that are going to need to be removed, you're going to be doing more of a board wipe than a single target removal of like a 2/2 rogue or something like that. And Bloodchief Thirst is better than this. Heartless Act is better than this. It's just not going to see play. Invoke the Divine, 2 and a white, destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 4 life. I don't really see this seeing much play either, mostly because Disenchant doesn't see play, and that's 1 mana cheaper. In a mono white deck, I could see this being played just for the gain 4 life, because those mono white decks are going to end up being life gain decks. Other than that, probably not. This card is going to be a lot of fun in Commander. It's Orvar the All-Form for 3 and a blue for a legendary shapeshifter. That's a 3/3. It has Changeling, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. Whenever a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. So, I see this as being another card to add to the 99 of Sakashima decks. Just because they do, the Sakashima Vial Smasher decks like to clone things. So you use this to end up cloning Vial Smasher. Even more, just by targeting some Vial Smasher with different spells. I don't know how much play could go and see in Standard. Just because would have to be more like a blue control spell. The only deck that I can think of that is currently in Standard without just going and building a brand new deck is now pretty much like a tier 2.5 deck that you don't even really see that much anymore, is the Is It Spellslinger deck. This could potentially see play there. Past that, not really going to see much. Shackles of Treachery for 2 and a red. It's a sorcery that you gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn it gains haste, and whenever this creature deals damage, destroy target equipment attached to it. I like this card. I don't think it's going to see play, but where I really like it is if you're playing red in standard, you could sideboard this in against a mono red aggro or Gruul aggro deck. Steal the creature that has the Evercleave attached to it. Swing out. Regardless of whether or not they block, you're still going to go and get that first strike damage before Embercleave is destroyed. You won't get the second normal combat damage because if you lose double strike, you don't get to do damage a second time. But you get to go and first strike in, mostly kill whatever creature's blocking, or heck, they might just go and end up trading, but you get rid of the Embercleave anyway. So I really like it for this reason. It might be a little bit too slow because of it being 3 mana, but I do see the potential for it to see play in those kinds of situations. Brine Barrow Intruder for a single blue. It's a human rogue that has flash, and it's a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent control gets -2/-0 until end of turn. This is Zulaport Duelist without the mill payoff. People might play this in Limited. I never liked Zulaport Duelist in Limited. It's not going to see play in Standard or Historic because, yet again, it's Zulaport Duelist without the mill payoff. And guess what? Zulaport Duelist doesn't see play in rogue decks. Craven Hulk for 3 and a red. It is a giant coward 4/4 that can't block alone. I'm very disappointed in this card. I like that they made a coward a card instead of it just being a type that it becomes a coward. I like that a coward is actually a card. What I don't like is that they made a 4/4 coward that essentially can't be played anywhere. It's not good enough. It's really unfortunate. And finally, you have Resplendent Marshal for 1 and 2 white for an Angel Warrior. It's a 3/3 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, you may exile another creature card from your graveyard. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than Resplendent Marshal that shares a creature type with the exiled card. So, you can't play this in Selesnya counters, because if you play this in Selesnya counters, you're not really getting that many +1/+1 counters. You can't play this, so you'd have to play this in either like a warrior or an angel deck or some other type of tribal deck, but I don't even know if this is good enough to see play there. I think that this could probably end up in the 99 Kalia decks. I don't think it sees play in Standard. I don't think it sees play in Historic. But with that being said, what do you think about these cards? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Which ones are you most excited for? Let me know. But that's all I have for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with the next day cards reveal. Have a good one.